Welcome back, my dear little adepts. I hope you have been enjoying this series where I teach you about the fantastic Magic the Gathering 40k decks. We have sadly arrived at the end of this specific journey. But don't you worry, my mostly fleshy brain have a ton of new ideas for even more Magic the Gathering content if you are willing to listen. In this last part, I will end with a truly fantastic deck, which is also my personal favorite deck. But Master, you said in your Necron book video that they are abominations. Well, they are, in the eyes of the Imperium. Lukia, I do not believe that our great Omnissiah have the same feelings as those pesky nobles of Terra. Why should we not study and even collect technologies that are for sure more advanced than our own? Being stuck in the past does no one any favors, now does it now? Also, I know that the Inquisition sometimes listen to my Vox recordings, so I have to be extra careful, you know? With all of that in mind, let's get started with the Necron deck. The Necron deck are a mono-black deck, which makes it, in my opinion, the most beginner-friendly deck of all of the 40k decks. And if you want to make updates to it, that will not set you back a lot of money, to be honest. Mono-black cards are often reprinted. And because you have no need for double-colored lands, you will be able to save a lot of money. Another fantastic thing about this deck are the love and the care that they have put into the legendary Necron characters. As you already know, my dear ones, I do consider myself a Necron lore master, and the abilities of the chosen cards of this deck make me very pleased. That said, I do find it sad that a lot of my personal favorite characters are not printed in the deck. But I will oversee this and hope that they will maybe print another Necron team deck or even a new secret lair with my favorite missing characters. Some of the ones that I do miss and I think they should have printed are Nemesor Zahndrekh and his Varguard Obyron. Our favorite little duo of wholesomeness and love. I think these two need a full-length book as well as an animated series. As a little side note, Obyron are mentioned on a card named Lynchguard, but he does not get his own card, which still makes me quite upset. Oh man, I love Severed so much. If you have not read it, go and read it right now. Well, after you finished watching this Vox recording, of course. Also missing as a card are Orikan the Diviner, the feistiest cryptic in the Infinite Empire. Trazyn's arch-nemesis and totally not divorced husband. If you don't know who these two are, I recommend you to go and read The Infinite and Divine. The very last two that I really think it's a shame that they're missing are Oltyx, aka the King of Drazhak, aka Vagul the Fallen Lord, from the Twice Dead King books. This little silver prince have 2 books about him and they still don't give him his own card? Makes me very sad. We also have his side deck, Admiral Yenekh, aka Racer of Sed. He is considered to be one of the absolute best fighters, and in the War of Heaven, he was a true legend. If you want to know more about these two, you should go and read the books The Twice Dead King, Ruin and Reign. They did include one card that is named the Flayed One in this deck, but it's clearly none of them, so... Even that some of my favorite characters are missed in this deck, we are still blessed with so many fantastic ones, so it's really just... Oh, hi Wrex! Do you want to join me for the recording? No, that's a good little Scarab boy. Sit in Master's lap and warm me. It's been so cold and rainy these couple of days, my metal joints get so stiff. So how do you win with this deck? There are so many different win cons in this deck, and it does not make it any easier that you can just switch out your main commander to another one without having to think about the mana fixing. The joy of playing mono black, eh? This deck are one color. Trademarks. This deck's pre-chosen commander are Zahndrekh, the Silent King. Yeah, I know Scarab, he's not my commander or even the chosen king of my choice, but people do like him, so I gotta talk about him, you know? So how does he play? When Zahndrekh the Silent King attacks, you are forced to mill 3 cards. Usually it could be a bad thing, but in this deck you want your cards to be in the graveyard to then be resurrected and given extra abilities and rewards for getting back into the battlefield. He also does fly, so getting a few commander damage to your opponent are not a bad thing either. Most of the cards in this deck have the ability of Unearth, which will get you back the chosen Necron to the battle space. In more Magic the Gathering terms, this deck have what it's called Graveyard Synergy. Your biggest threat while playing this deck is gonna be if your opponent removes or exiles your cards. So you gotta beware of those pesky white cards when you play. So how good does the abilities of Zahndrekh match his lore? I would say it's pretty spot on. In his lore, he did force the entire Necron tier empire into the biotransference furnaces, which I should say is like the mill part of the effect. Then we have the resurrection part, where the Necron tier comes back as Necrons. His flying ability, I would say, is because of the portrait in the lore, the model, and the art, where you will see him on top of his dice of Dominion throne that he is flying on. So pretty spot on. So who is the other pre-chosen commander of this deck? Now we're talking about my commander and my chosen king of the Infinite Empire. Imhotep the Stormlord. So how does he play? Anytime an artifact leaves your graveyard in any type of interaction, Imhotep will spawn 2 Necron boys for you. Now remember that Unearth mechanic I talked about before? Anytime any artifact leaves the graveyard. Exactly, Wrex. We get to create a warrior Necron boy. Not only does Imhotep have that kick-ass ability, he also have his second one, which is when you begin your combat, you choose another artifact and give that one +2/+2 and menace. It may not sound much if you just have a 2/2 Necron boy out, but what if you have a bigger, chunkier Necron out on the battlefield? Even something with Death Touch? Not only will your opponent have to block with minimum of 2 creatures, because of menace, but also the extra 2/2 are great. Imhotep are usually not seen as a big threat in matches, so when I play, my opponents are way too busy with their own things than to keep their attention on him in the beginning. If your opponents don't keep attention on your Imhotep, you will fill your battle space with Necron boys in no time. And even better, if you can keep your Imhotep safe from damage with maybe a pair of nice boots, they will not realize what a terrible mistake they have done. Okay, Ami, that sounds cool and everything, but where are the other cool Necron legendaries that you promised? Hold on to your ropes, my adepts, and my esteemed overlords. You are in for some lore dumping as well as some cool cards that you can also play as commanders for this deck. Trazyn the Infinite, Warhammer's most esteemed archivist. Not only a huge fan favorite and a legend among us Necron fans, he is also extremely popular as a character in the lore and other Games Workshop media. His thing in the lore is that he is a collector that loves to get new things for his gallery. To be honest, if I also had an entire planet just for my many collections, I would also go a bit overboard and just collect weird stuff. I'm not saying that I have a collection problem or anything, but So how they tie that into his card is that he is connected to his artifacts. His card is so powerful and fun that I'm very tempted to build a brand new deck with just him as my commander. Not only is he quite a big lad, he has Death Touch and all of the activated abilities of artifacts that are currently in your graveyard. Played right and he will go infinite with mana. See what I did there? And by doing so, you will win the match. Next up, we have our favorite angsty overlord, Anrakir the Traveler. When he attacks, you can choose to pay life instead of mana to play an artifact spell from your hand or your graveyard. How does this tie back into the lore, Yami? In his book and his lore, his mission of saving the Necron Empire takes him to really dire and kinda shitty places in the galaxy. His borrowed forces are constantly being on the verge of collapsing. The pay life part of this card, I would say it's because he's equipped with a very dangerous weapon on his wrist. It's called a Tachyon Arrow, and it's an energy weapon that can even blow up huge mountains. In the Devourer book, Zahndrekh is very aware of the cost of using this weapon. He does use it, but often it will leave him with a type of memory loss. He also needs to restart his entire body because of its power usage, so it's dangerous when he is in the middle of a battle. Because Zahndrekh is one, if not my personal favorite Necron characters, I've done a lot of extra research and talk with my fellow Techpriests about him. And some of my fellow Techpriests and myself do think that the weapon even removes his old memories from his time of being a Necrontyr. So in the end, there will be nothing left of him as a Necrontyr or even Necron overlord, which sounds like a terrifying price to pay. Zahndrekh has yet to get his own full-size book, but I'm really hoping that Games Workshop will give us that in the future. He's a super cool character and, again, my personal favorite. Another fantastic legendary, yet very hated Necron character are Illuminor Seras, Master of Matter, Lord of Santragora. There is probably no one else in the entire Necron Empire that is feared more than Seras. Some describe him as a mad scientist, while I would simply call him a very dedicated scientist with no moral bounds whatsoever. Experimenting are a commonplace in the Necron world, and there are other even more terrifying cryptics in the lore. I would say Seras are for sure one of the most famous ones. He does not only experiment on humans and other Xenos, but also his own Necron kind. That said, without Seras, the biotransference would not have happened. His research are what made it happen together with the Catan. As his abilities as a Magic the Gathering card, again the lore are just fantastic. Tap Seras and sacrifice another creature, and you will be given black mana as the value of the sack creature. A very crude way to get mana, you may say. Yes, indeed, but very effective. There can be no progress, no achievements without sacrifice. Oh, who calls this late in the evening? I'm not on night shift duty, right? Let me check my schedule. No, you're right, Wrex. I'm not supposed to work tonight. Hello! This is Magos Unit 00948 Alpha speaking. Have you tried turning it off and on again? Oh, hi Engine Therox. What can I do for you? She did what? Okay, do you have her with you? Oh, my Omnissiah. Thank you for keeping her. I will be there within an hour. My girl, Magos Eliox, got herself into trouble again. Yeah, she was out drinking, and apparently she decided, against everyone's warnings, to accept a drink from an unknown Magos from another forge. Bless her pure heart, but she is way too trusting and kind to strangers. The unknown Magos spiked it with some really crude oil or something, and she got really wasted, stripped off all her clothing, and danced on top of the bar. Engine Therox said that she was lucky the drink wasn't spiked with something else. She could have ended up in pieces in some crazy janitor's lab or something. Yeah, she's okay at the moment. Engine Therox are keeping her company at the moment. At least she did heed my warning and bring him with her. She always told me that she can handle herself, but the truth is she's just a Lex mechanic. Like really, what's she gonna do in a fight? Stab her assailant with a quill pen? Not to mention she's such a small girl, you know? She's so tiny even with her arguments. I do worry about her a lot, Wrex. It's so sad, you know, in this world you're seldom rewarded for your kindness. I just want the very best for her, but sometimes I wished she was never in the Mechanicus, you know? She would do so much better living in a small farm with her own chicken, writing romantic, spicy novels. Well, I will not be able to do any more Vox recordings tonight, Wrex. I will go and pick her up and keep her company until Magos biologist's office is open in the morning, so we can test her blood for whatever is in her system. No, thank you, Wrex. You are my perfect little cutie of a guard scarab. If you need to stretch those little leggies of yours, just go by the vents and try not to be seen. There are some extra ostbågar in the kitchen area that I bought for you. Remember that Master loves you very much.
Oh, hello there, little one. No need to sound so upset. I'm only here to take back what has been taken from me. Or maybe I'll grab something extra, just to show the pesky bag of flesh who she is messing with.